Hello everyone, Hiawatha Productions here. Welcome back to another video. So I was originally going to make a shunting scenario for me to do with the RS Simulations '08 shunter, but that did not quite work out. My game crashed and I do not want to have to get everything set up again. However, I still like the idea of doing a shunting thing, so we're going to go over here to, I think it's on standard. Hopefully it is. Yep, here we go. So we are here on standard. We are going to be driving the BR Class '08 on the Weardale and Teesdale network. This is the standard Class '08 that just comes with the route. I don't know who made it, but it comes included with the route. And we're just going to do a little bit of shunting at Eldon Colliery. I'm thinking that next time I do this, I will probably pick a different engine just to take a break from the '08 shunters, and then I'll circle back over to the RS Simulation '08 shunter. Why do I keep saying it's RS Railworks, or I don't know. It's RS Railworks. Okay, yeah, the RS Railworks '08. Alright, hello driver and welcome to Eldon Colliery. We have some shunting tests here. Let's begin with the consist at the Eldon Colliery reception. Pick it up with the front of your logo. Seems pretty straightforward. Alright, so I guess we're going to reverse here. I'm thinking that this time around I'm just going to have the HUD up for... Nah, we'll do it like this, it's fine. Right, so if we go here to map, and then go to where we are, and then show task. Yep, so we have to go up over yonder. Well, that's a shame. I thought those points were set in the right direction, so let me just fix that. We'll book it forwards, not speeding. Because the speed limit right now I think is 10 miles per hour. Switch lines, head up over that way, and then finally pick up the wagons. If we press Shift G, then that switches the set of points behind us. I do like how on the '08 shunter the throttle is set in notches instead of just percentage. Makes the game feel much more realistic in my opinion. Hopefully it doesn't crash on me again, because if it does, I'm not going to be a happy chappy. Even if it does, I might still cook something up. Maybe I can do the Falmouth branch or something. But all the same, hopefully I get to use this footage. Anyways, so we're just going to keep backing up here, and then we have to head down this line to pick up, I think, that consist. There's a 25 going by. I do really like this route. It's very big, but I also love the more countryside vibe on it as well. It's very relaxing in comparison to something like the Netherfield Nottingham route where everything feels so industrial. Alright, forwards we go. So gotta make sure that we aren't speeding. Alright, so we're heading down that way. Switch those points. Switch those ones. Boom. Oh, sorry, boom. There we go. I'm not gonna do a closer... Oh, we're speeding. Oh, no we're not. It's 15 here. Heck yeah. Still, I don't want to go too fast on this engine, because I've done this scenario before, as indicated by the check mark, and when I did, I hit the wagons a little bit too hard and had to start over. Not my proudest moment by any means, but it is what it is. I was able to get the scenario done, and I had a lot of fun doing it. Slowing down for the approach. Oh. Yep. Bit of a hard shove. But it's fine. Right, where are we going next? Exchange 1. Okay, cool. Points are in the correct direction, which is excellent news. This model is definitely dated in comparison to the other diesels that are currently on the market, but, you know, it's fine. It's fine. The route came with a lot, so I can let something like that slide as far as I'm concerned. For a brief little history lesson on the 08 shunters, they were built as diesel shunters. I cannot think or even... I don't know, my brain... I've got brain fog today, I do apologize for that. Anyways, the BR Class 08s were a class of diesel shunters, obviously, for British Railways. They are diesel electrics, not hydraulics or diesel mechanicals. These are diesel electric shunters. They were pretty standard across the system. They could be found all over the network in various stations and yards. You know, they could be found everywhere. They were built between 1952 and 1962, amassing a whopping 996 members, which is absolutely insane. You do not need that many, even when you already had an additional, like, I don't know, 500 diesel shunters of a variety of different classes on the system as well. There we go. Stopped. But yeah, anyways, not long after their introduction, the nature of British Railways services began to change. Commuter services were handled by DMUs and rail cars. Uncouple the brake fan at Eldon Colliery North 3. Where is that? Apologies, I'm gonna have to pay attention to this while I talk about my expert history lesson. It is not expert. Like I've said before, take what I say with a grain of salt, because not all the information that I give will be 100% accurate, because people make mistakes, and I try my best to do research on these engines during the filming process of these videos, but again, I might get something wrong, and if I do, I can only apologize for that. Anyways, the nature of British Railways freight and passenger services began to change, rather unfortunately, for the class around the time they were being introduced, or not being introduced, around the time they were still being built. Passenger services were being handled by DMUs and rail cars and the like, with only express services still needing to be arranged at station platforms and whatnot. And the nature of freight traffic was also beginning to change around that time as well, as independently braked wagons were being phased out in favor of wagons with air brakes on the train, meaning that there was no need for a brake van. And then later on, wagons became larger and heavier to allow for more freight and whatnot to be carried at once. Uncouple the oil van at North 14. Alright, so we're going to have to back up. Anyways, wagons became significantly larger and heavier, which ultimately resulted in the 08s no longer being able to properly work in the areas that they were designed to work, which was large marshalling yards that BR had built, as they practically went unused at the time. Because, again, things were changing on the railway so that they could stay with the times, so a lot of them became redundant. Withdrawal of the class began in 1972, however, I believe one was withdrawn and scrapped in 1967 following an accident. And they're actually still being scrapped to this day because around 100 are in service as of 2020, with 82 being preserved. However, not all of them remained 08s throughout their entire lives. 10 of them were converted to Class 09s, 6 were converted to the Master and Slave configured Class 13s, 5 were exported to Liberia. I don't know if they remained in the configuration of the 08 shunter, but that's another thing that I should mention. But the rest of them were sadly scrapped, minus the additional 100 that are in preservation. So it's hard to believe that a design that is 74 years old, if my math is correct, is still in service to this day. That is absolutely incredible to think about, that they've lasted this long. Like, I don't know about you, but I think that is absolutely impressive for a machine to have lasted that long and still be considered good enough to, you know, do what it was designed to do, which is shunting and arranging trains. That being said, I would imagine that a good chunk of them are privately owned and are work shunters, or are working around various industries with, you know, other members of their type so that they can handle the more heavier, the larger wagons seen on modern day freight trains. So, anyways, that's enough of my little history lesson on the class. Let's go ahead and continue to put all of our attention into making sure that I don't completely screw this up. So the tank wagon is going to be dropped off here in this little siding, so I'm going to start slowing down just a little bit more. And we should come to a nice and gentle stop here in this siding. Stop. Thank you very much. Now if we just click that, that's been uncoupled. Take these 6 empty plank fans, which need to be loaded with coal, deliver them to North 10. Right. Brakes off. Reverse, notch 1. Where's North 10? Ah, it's right there. So I'm going to go ahead and preemptively set some of these points to the correct direction. So we've got to back all the way up into the exchange siding, roll forwards, and then drop them off in North 10. Interesting little fact about these diesels. They were actually not initially fitted with horns. In fact, I don't even know how many of them wound up getting horns later on in their life, or if they retained this their entire service life, but they were actually fitted with whistles. Yeah, you heard me right. They were fitted with whistles, not horns. Definitely a little bit strange to think about in retrospect, you know, a diesel having a whistle on it instead of a horn, but either way, I think it's rather amusing. Right, map view. We'll just go ahead and switch that one because I do not want to miss my shot by pressing the G key. Then we'll roll forwards, put a little more power down this time so that we can get this done as quickly as possible, while also being mindful not to go too fast. I know the speed limit's 15 miles per hour, but again, I do not want to actually try and reach that speed because I try my best not to get called out for speeding. And there's also just the fact that I find it better to not run at the designated line speed when shunting, as it just makes the overall operation a lot easier to handle. Alright. These have been dropped off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't even know why I'm doing that. There we go, finally. Again, apologies. Brain's not quite wanting to work tonight. Uncouple the remaining vans at exchange 1. Let's see if we look here. Okay, so we do drop off the plank wagons in that siding. It said remaining vans. It didn't mention the 2 remaining plank wagons that we had here with the crates in them, so I just had to make sure that I wasn't missing anything. Alright, where are... Right, so we're dropping these off in exchange 1. Perfect. Then I believe after that we need to go ahead and disassemble one of the other trains. Unless they want us to assemble one this time. I don't know. Right, so I believe this is just about short enough to... Yeah, it's plenty short enough to fit in here. Thought I was worrying a little bit that I'd have to be careful with where I stopped to make sure that I didn't clip any of the wagons when running around them, but nope, we're fine. Now if I can just... There we go. Drive around the vans and pick them up with the back of the loco. Oh, okay. Do not want to throw those points in the wrong direction. Alright, forwards. Because I can just do that instead of using the brakes. I can just put the engine into forward. I feel like in real life you probably wouldn't want to do that because that might cause damage to the locomotive's gearbox. But it's Train Simulator. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Alright, G. I'm glad that I'm actually doing these videos because I'm having to learn a lot more about how the game works for the ease of filming this content, so it's definitely very much needed and appreciated. Flip that lever. Then we'll go ahead and back up and couple up to the consist. Now I've got to be very careful with those plank wagons because they're on the lighter side, so if you hit them see how they bounced up like that? If you hit them just a tiny bit harder than they would have been pushed all the way up, which is not good at all. Right, so we're uncoupling the vans at North 9, and then I'm assuming we're running around them. Show task. Right, so we're going in there. I feel like when I was in this siding earlier, the speed limit was 10, unless I'm just going insane, which is definitely a possibility. Either way, it doesn't really matter in retrospect, because I'm still getting the job done, aren't I? Right, now we just gotta back up into this siding here. Haha, I wasn't going insane. The speed limit on this line is 10, and then it transitions to 15 immediately after. So hopefully I didn't get called out for speeding. I'd rather not have that happen, but it's fine. Oh, brake, 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 brake. Ah, okay. EC back road 1. Yeah, all 5, and then that one. We're dropping them off in there. Oh. No speeding. Flip that one. And we're good. Huh, it's still 15. Maybe it's 10 going in the other direction. So we'll drop them off there, run around, and then I think we've got some more tasks to do. Oh, bugger. Gotta do it this way. Pick up the loaded hoppers, consist at North 5, and shunt into an Eldon colliery reception. I almost called it Endon. I thought I was on the Redwick and Chilton Hills for a second. Epic Benastard, please do not sue me for mentioning your series name out loud. Switch that. Keep going backwards. Switch those points there. So I think we're going to pick up... I actually have no idea which consist we're going to pick up, because there's a whole bunch with... Wait, did it say loaded? I think it did say loaded, so I think we're picking up these wagons here. Yes, we are. Cool. Cool, 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 cool. Speed limit is 15, so I think it's okay to speed up a little bit. Granted, depending on the model of '08, they could only top out at 15 miles per hour anyways, but I believe this one tops out at like 20 or something like that, maybe even a little faster. So not entirely realistic, because the '08s, like I said, were only, like, some were only geared to hit a maximum of 20 miles per hour, but then they would have been re-geared to, they would have been remodeled into Class '09s, I believe, to allow for a higher top speed of, I think, maybe 25 miles per hour, but you sacrificed tractive effort, if I remember correctly. Unless I'm thinking of the Class 10 shunters, which I believe sported a different prime mover and gearbox. Am I... Yeah, I'm going the right way. Cool. Oh, bugger. Stop. We're overrunning the siding because it wouldn't switch like I... Now you pop up. Gosh. I was trying to click on the switch and I panicked for a second because whenever I hovered over it, it wouldn't show the little icon that I could throw the switch. Now it works. Okay. We are going to the right siding, so that's good. Let's try this again. There's now the second time that I have gone on the wrong line. We'll just blame the ground staff. Bit of a bump. Alright, we have to drop them off on the line that we were just on, by the looks of it, for pickup. And then I believe we take the other consist and put it where this one was. They weren't kidding. This thing is definitely heavy. It's taken forever to actually get up to speed. But that also means that it's gonna be a bit harder than it was before to actually stop. Switch that to give myself a little more space to work with. Alright. 10 miles an hour is definitely fast enough, so we just gotta go down this line. And I am preemptively assuming that we're picking up that consist there. Oh dear. Got the air brakes and the locomotive's independent brake on right now, and we're only just barely starting to slow down. There we go. Forward march. Please let me be nerd. Right. Oh yeah, I don't know why I did that, because we have to drop off this consist first. Yeah, I was right about the I think I'm right about the consist we need to pick up. It's the one with the 2 brake fans. I feel like this really helps to put into perspective how strong these engines were, because in retrospect, this consist is pretty heavy, like even for the likes of a Class 25, and yet it seems to be handling it fairly well. If I remember correctly, I feel like a consist of this size would probably require the Class 25 to use a brake tender. We're coming to a nice, gentle stop. And if I've timed it correctly, then I believe the whole consist will be in the siding as requested. Granted, more towards the front of the siding, but either way, we're in the siding. It's pretty long. Complain if you wish. As far as I'm concerned, I'm doing it the right way. Very nice. Pick up the empty hoppers at Eldon Colliery 1 and shunt it onto North 5. So we're going to back up. Flip these points here. And then roll down onto that siding there. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video. It's definitely different, and I'm not driving a super fancy locomotive or anything like that, but, you know, I just wanted to try something a little bit different, and hopefully next time I will be able to create my own shunting scenario to do on a slightly more fun route. Like I said, I'll probably do the Falmouth branch, or something along those lines. I think it'll be fun. But for now, we're sticking with something that's a little bit simpler, a little more back to basics, as you were using more of the default stuff instead of the fancy DLC. Alright, so we've got to bring them all the way back over there. As you can see, I'm at full throttle right now, and even though these hoppers are empty, it's still taking a good little bit for me to get my train up to speed. So that kind of shows that a pretty decent portion of the weight also just comes from the... Why do I keep doing that? Gosh. A pretty decent chunk of the weight comes from just the wagons themselves, and they kind of have to be, you know, in order to be durable enough to actually hold all of the coal and stone or whatever they need to put in them. Same goes for these older, more boxy shaped mineral wagons. whenever I get into texturing and whatnot, I'll probably take some of these and go ahead and make copies of them to hold different things like limestone and whatnot. Just add a little bit of variety to my consists later on. One project that I'm definitely going to be looking into that's going to take a really long time to get done is actually modding the Caledonia Works 380 class a little bit. My intention is to kind of just re-engineer the thing a little bit. Extend the length of the water tanks a little bit so that they can hold more water. Fit it with a functioning water scoop. And then also fit a Alesco feed water heater to the top of the smoke box. In real life, I think very, very, very few British steam engines were actually fitted with feed water heaters. That's more of a feature that you'll see on a lot of steam engines in North America, not Europe. A good chunk of railways in Asia did it, though. I believe some of China's railways had engines with feed water heaters. I know that the Japanese National Railway System also had some of their engines fitted with feed water heaters, namely the D51 2A2 Mikados. A lot of them were fitted with Alesco feed water heaters, which I think is probably the type of feed water heater that I'm going to put on the 380 and have it protrude out of the smoke box to give it kind of a beetle brow appearance almost, because I think that would look really interesting. But I'd have to do a little bit more research and also probably have it based off of a Alesco design, but have it be modded to actually fit within the dimensions of a British locomotive, because it would look really weird if I fitted a, let's say, an Alesco feed water here that's meant for a New York Central H10B Mikado. Okie dokie. Yeah, it would be really weird if I fitted it with a Alesco from, let's say, an H10B Mikado for the New York Central, because that would look absolutely massive on that thing and look very much out of place. I might end up having it be a private commission of sorts. I'd have to do a little more research, because I don't want to... I know that you yourself are allowed to mod Caledonia Works' engines for your own express use, but I don't know whether or not it would be against their policies to reach out to someone else to do the work as part of a commission where they would otherwise profit from it. I believe that would be a violation of their policies, which I really don't want to do. The guy who runs the website, Chris, is a pretty nice guy from what I've seen, but you know, like I said, I feel like that would be in violation of his policies, and I really don't want to break them in any way, shape, or form. So, if possible, I'd like for it to hopefully be a free commission, because having to learn how to 3D model and whatnot myself is going to take a really long time that I don't really have at the moment, and I also know that that's going to be a problem in two different ways. Problem number one with it is that I have a tendency to strive for perfection, which is a good thing in a lot of respects, but for me it's a little bit annoying, because if something doesn't look quite right, then I'm going to keep messing with it until it looks right, and it's going to drive me insane. And the other issue with it is that I don't have the time to actually learn how to do a whole lot of this stuff, not to mention the fact that some of it's going to include changing the code on the locomotive, like change how much water can actually be held in the tanks, while also adding the coding to allow for a functional water scoop, which I feel like you could probably do by copying the code from another engine, theoretically speaking. But again, I feel like that would also technically count as a breach of policy on maybe not CW's part, but the a different party's side of it, if that makes any sense. Like, for example, in theory, you could take the code for a water scoop from one of Victory Works' Great Western engines and then slap it onto one of Caledonia Works' engines, but I feel like that would count as illegal modding or theft or whatever. I don't know. I'm just being a little overly cautious with it, if that makes any sense. Which in retrospect might be a good thing, but okay, cool. Which in retrospect is, kind of a good thing because it means that I'm not going to be tempted to steal or anything like that, but, Anyways, enough of that. Please have a short break until the unloading of your vans has been finished. Thank you for your patience, enjoy your break, and thank you for driving the service. Cool. So, I guess with that makes it the end of the scenario. Love that. Cool. What do you mean single passed it? Danger. You should have been clear. It's fine, it's fine. Anyways, like I said, that marks the end of this video. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, leave a comment, letting me know what your thoughts down there. Oop. Sorry, my computer had a aneurysm. Let me know your thoughts on the video down in the comment section, or let me know if you have any other suggestions for some things that I can do in Train Simulator. And, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and you like what you're seeing. And I think that's about it from me. This is Hiawatha Productions signing off. I will see you guys on the next one.